Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we're going to be tackling the question of who shot down the Sentinel factory, or officially it's called the Sentinel Manufacturing Facility, on the mission Sacred Icon. So, towards the end of the mission, when you drop down the last tube or tunnel or whatever, when you get to the bottom, you proceed through another set of doors, and once you go through that set of doors, if you look up in the sky, you will see a Sentinel Manufacturing Facility right up there. Now, if you watch a little longer, you notice a bunch of Wraith mortars getting fired towards it, and then it gets blown up, and it starts crashing. So, I gotta admit, this has always been around in Halo 2, but I literally only just noticed this like a few days ago as of this video being uploaded. And that's because, like, when I was little, like, back when the game first came out in 2004 or 2005, whatever, I pretty much just ran through this part and never really looked at the sky. I just breezed through this. But a few days ago, I learned that actually exists and that happens, and that later on Quarantine Zone, when you proceed to this part of the mission, this structure you go into, this is actually that crashed Sentinel factory, which all these years I never actually knew what this structure was for. But anyways, on anniversary graphics, however, the explosion or the crashing facility has kind of been retconned slightly, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But basically, the facility just kind of explodes for no reason in the sky and then crashes as it usually does. There's no Wraith mortars being fired at it, which is pretty peculiar, and we'll discuss later why that's actually pretty interesting, or pretty odd actually. But anyways, to see what's actually shooting at it in classic graphics, with the Sputnik and Feather Skull, we can actually launch ourselves pretty far up that mountain, and we can catch a glimpse on MCC at where the Wraith mortars are originating from, which at first glance it looks like they just, pop out of nowhere. But on anniversary graphics, if you want to double check and go out there, you could see again that there's really nothing that flies, that spawns out there. No Wraith mortars, which is very, very odd, because there's no reason it shouldn't exist in anniversary graphics, which kind of leads me to think that it was intentional that they didn't display it in anniversary graphics. But like I said, I'll explain that all later, why my theory is that way. But anyways, let's get a closer look at what's actually shooting at them. So, to get a better look, we have to do this on the original Xbox, because that's the only version of Halo 2 where I actually had this tool to be able to freeze the game and then fly around while the game is frozen, like as if it were theater mode. Otherwise, on newer versions of Halo 2, I currently can't do that yet. And of course, Halo 2, as of this video being made, is not out on MCC for PC yet. So, probably can't do that yet either. But anyways, like I said earlier, it looks like they're spawning out of nowhere, but that's actually not the case. But first, before I explain what's actually shooting them, I do want to point out that they actually don't land anywhere near the Sentinel factory. If we look at it from this angle, they completely miss that facility. Not only do they fall short, but their aim is like way off. Like the distance is really far away. So these Wraith mortars, they are, totally inaccurate. But anyways, where are they coming from? So obviously, it's not a bunch of Wraiths that are shooting them. It's, at first, I thought it was going to be like some, floating plasma rifle or something shooting the Wraith rounds out. Because by now you probably noticed that a lot of stuff in Halo 2, off camera, has that little trick where Bungie uses some floating plasma rifle to shoot some kind of projectile out, such as the Phantom gun or the Scarab gun. But no, not in this case. The Wraith mortars are actually being shot out from these invisible effects that basically just spawn the Wraith mortars and fire them. Now, before I show you guys where this facility's final path goes, I just wanted to show you guys up close that it is a 2D floating texture. From far away, it may look somewhat 3D, but it is just a flat 2D bitmap, and yeah, it just Nothing special about it. It just crashes and then it just vanishes. But anyways, so the Wraith motors are spawned with these bunch of invisible effects that just spawn a projectile in a certain direction, which I suspect is how the Scarab does it on the mission The Great Journey, because on that mission, the Scarab doesn't use that floating Scarab gun anymore like it does on Outskirts and Metropolis. So it may be something similar to that, I'm not sure. But point is, these are still very real Wraith projectiles. If I stand in the path where they land, they actually do, damage, and if they strike me just right, they can totally kill me. So they are actual Wraith projectiles. They're just not being fired by Wraiths, or they're not being fired by, some actual weapon, but they're just being fired by an invisible effect, almost like a spawner of sorts. So that is basically what's shooting the Sentinel factory. Not an actual Wraith, not like a floating gun, and not nothing either. They're not being spawned out of thin air. They are being spawned from like an object or an effect. And I can, as you saw there, I can actually mod it so that it's something else that they shoot something else. And, they are actually shooting actual projectiles. That the Wraith motors are not just some, visual effect or not some 2D texture like the facility. Which is why when I replaced it with the plasma pistol bolts, you could actually see that too. But the peculiar thing is that with anniversary graphics, see, a lot of times in anniversary graphics, and this is true for CE as well, things that exist in classic but don't exist in anniversary, a lot of times they either show up as like a cube or something in Halo 1 anniversary, or they just don't show up at all. They're totally invisible. But in this case, the Wraith mortars, they exist in both classic and anniversary, so it's very peculiar why they don't show up in anniversary graphics. The spawners, I don't know, they might be glitched, it might be bugged, or it could be intentional. I have no idea for certain, but that's just how it is in anniversary graphics on MCC. But anyways, that about wraps up for this video, so hopefully you guys did find this to be interesting, and if you did enjoy this video, as always, make sure to leave a like. Leave your thoughts in the comments, anything else you want me to check out or look into, or any other questions you want me to tackle, just let me know, and I'll do my best to look into it when I get a chance. But other than that, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time. Bye guys!